NoDQ.com.
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 NoDQ.com. NoDQ.com.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 956 of NoDQ Video here on NoDQ.com. Thank you guys for your continued support of the website by watching the full-length video today. Please keep spreading the word about NoDQ Video. Tell a friend, anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check out this video. Word of mouth can really go a long way, and I do appreciate you guys spreading the word. Also, if you haven't already, grab an official NoDQ.com t-shirt over at ProWrestlingTees.com. Search NoDQ. That is a great way you guys can support the website by picking up an official shirt. There will also be a link on this page where you can check out the t-shirt page. With that being said, let's get down to your questions today. First one comes from Celtics in 7. Hey Aaron, I think Miz should beat Dean Ambrose next week, then Dean should become the #1 contender and face Brock Lesnar. Your thoughts? I am not a fan of this idea for a few reasons. Number one, we already saw Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose. Lesnar destroyed him. I have no desire to see those two go at it again, and I think it's a safe assumption that Ambrose would lose to Lesnar. Not a fan of it. The other reason is I want to see some fresh matchups. I want to see Lesnar in there with somebody he hasn't faced. And on top of that, I would like to see people that are supposed to be getting Universal title rematches get their rematches. Guys like Finn Balor, who never got his rematch for the title when he never lost it in the first place. Finn Balor should be getting the title shot. As far as candidates to face Brock Lesnar next, it should be Finn Balor. Finn Balor is entitled in the storyline to a Universal title match. I think it should be him as far as who should be Brock Lesnar's next opponent. Seth Rollins is another guy that you could argue deserves a title match, and we never really saw a decisive finish to Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar. They had that match 2 years ago that was interrupted by The Undertaker. We haven't seen them have a decisive one-on-one match at this point. And the triple threat at the Royal Rumble a few years back was awesome with Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar and John Cena. I would be totally cool with Lesnar versus Rollins. I think it should be either Balor or Rollins as Lesnar's next opponent, with Strowman being injured. This one comes from Mr. Yuck. In what capacity or role will Triple H and or Stephanie play when either or both returns to TV? Probably exactly the same thing that we've seen from them. My guess is Stephanie will come back and resume her role as the authority figure. Honestly, I have not missed Stephanie as a TV character one bit. I think it's totally unnecessary to bring her back, but my gut feeling is it will happen very soon because of the fact that ratings have been down, viewership is down, and whenever that happens, WWE's answer is, oh, we must need more of the McMahons on television. McMahons equal ratings. And of course, Stephanie looked bad at WrestleMania, and you have to think, looking at her ego, that she's got to come back and be a force to be reckoned with. She can't just wither away because of what Seth Rollins did to her at WrestleMania. I would not be surprised if at Extreme Rules she returns and interferes and costs Rollins the match against Samoa Joe. I could definitely see something like that happening. I think we will see her back relatively soon. As far as Triple H goes, I don't necessarily think we'll see him back soon. Triple H seems to be happy doing his thing with NXT, and he'll come back for major storylines. He'll come back if there's really a good reason for him to come back. But beyond that, I think it'll just mainly be Stephanie that we see on television, and just more of what we've seen from her over the past several years. This one comes from Steven Joshua. What's the likelihood of a feud between Triple H representing Raw versus Shane for SmackDown? Possibly Survivor Series or WrestleMania 34? If you want to believe the reports out there, Triple H does not want to work with Shane McMahon, and there's still some bad blood between the two of them because of real life politics. Now, if it's good for business, I could see both of them being willing to work together. The question is, will the writers decide to go in that direction? If you're going to do Raw versus SmackDown and something like that for Survivor Series, and quite frankly, I think it's better to do for Survivor Series the concept of Raw versus SmackDown and maybe do a big Survivor Series style match, but actually have something important on the line. I would like that idea, and it would make sense to have Triple H captain one team and Shane captain the other team. Although Triple H isn't in the same role as Shane, I think it would make more sense to do Stephanie versus Shane at Survivor Series. But again, do we really want to see that? It's just more of what we've seen before, and it's the McMahons hogging the spotlight and that sort of thing. So do we really need it? I mean, I would not have a problem with it, but I'm not exactly jumping for joy at the idea of that match. So will we ever see Shane versus Triple H? Maybe at WrestleMania? I would definitely not rule it out, but I think a lot of it will depend on what the writers come up with, and if there's a storyline that Triple H feels is compelling enough for WrestleMania. I could see it happening, but I think it's really 50-50. It might happen, it might not happen. This one comes from Gerson Mendez. Hey Aaron, do you think Rusev will be SmackDown's Strowman? Here's what I think about Rusev on the SmackDown brand. I think that Rusev will initially get a big push. SmackDown is in need of a top heel. That's why Jinder Mahal is getting this push. SmackDown is short when it comes to top heel guys to carry the brand. I think Rusev will initially get a big push, and I think it will probably fizzle out relatively soon. Now, Rusev has lasted longer as a major heel in WWE than I was expecting. We've talked about this. You guys have sent me the questions about Rusev. I really felt that when Rusev was doing the Ruru thing with Summer Rae, that was it for him. He was able to bounce back from that, however, and he's done fairly well. I think being on SmackDown will also give him a chance to get a renewed push as a heel, and I think that that will give him some more longevity. But 6 months from now, I could see him and Mahal feuding and maybe doing something as a lower card tag team again, rekindling that relationship from Raw. I could see that happening. I could see Rusev becoming a comedy figure, maybe doing comedy with Breezango. I hope I'm wrong. I think Rusev's a great heel, and I think that there's still potential for him to do great things in WWE. But realistically, I think he will be pushed until WWE has someone new that they want to push, and then Rusev will be moved aside, and he'll end up just doing some comedy or whatever. This one comes from Larby. With Ember Moon being injured and pulled from TakeOver, will Asuka retain or drop the title to Ruby or Nikki Cross? Great question. I will talk about this more in detail when I do the NXT predictions video with the NoDQ panel. But to answer your question, to sum it up real quick, my feeling is Ember Moon will eventually be the person to beat Asuka, and because of that, I'm not expecting a title change. I think that Asuka will retain. Now, were there plans for Ember Moon to win the title at the TakeOver pay-per-view? My gut feeling is probably not. I think when Ember Moon does win the title, it will be in a one-on-one match, not a four-person match. Although, the argument is you could do a four-person match and have Ember Moon win the title without Asuka taking the fall, and that naturally sets up a rematch. So maybe she was going to win at Chicago. Who knows? But I do think that Ember Moon will win the title, and I don't see a title change at the NXT TakeOver pay-per-view. But again, I will talk more about that within the rest of the No DQ panel, so stay tuned for that. This one comes from Cheyenne. Now that NXT has a lot of the big names, who do you see as a next NXT champion? Drew McIntyre, Roderick Strong, Ono, or anybody else? I could see Drew McIntyre being the next NXT champion. I could see him being the one to beat Bobby Roode. If I had to make a prediction right now, I would say it's him. WWE feels pretty high on Roderick Strong, though, and it seems like he's starting to gain momentum. WWE has posted these videos about him and his rise into NXT, and he seems to be getting bigger and bigger reactions with each passing week. So who knows? It could end up being him. But right now, if I had to make a prediction, I would go with Drew McIntyre as the guy to carry NXT moving forward, and maybe eventually McIntyre will end up back on the main roster and being a force in WWE again. But yeah, in the short term, I could see McIntyre carrying the brand as champion. This one comes from Tyler Joseph Smith. Did the streak make The Undertaker? Imagine if he lost to Snuka at WrestleMania, would he be the star he is today? The streak helped Undertaker in terms of longevity and being perhaps the greatest character in WWE history, right up there at the top. But Undertaker was already huge before the streak really became a thing. You have to keep in mind the streak was not really something that was really played up on until 2002, 2003. And Undertaker was one of the top WWE stars for many years before that. 97, 98, during the peak of the Attitude Era, Undertaker was right there with Austin and The Rock as the top stars in the company. Undertaker had all those great matches, you know, the historic Hell in a Cell match with Mankind, and the matches with Austin, the match with Bret Hart at SummerSlam. Undertaker was the Phenom. He was a legendary figure before the streak really became a big thing, but certainly the streak helped, and I think it helped with the Undertaker's longevity. Maybe without the streak, Undertaker would have retired 5 years ago. I mean, I think the streak definitely kept him competing in WWE, at least in some capacity, perhaps longer than physically he should have. This one comes from The Dark One. Was Undertaker's biker gimmick pointless, and should he have remained as the Dead Man? Again, I think that it helped with his longevity. I do not think it really made his career or stalled his momentum, looking at it on the other end. I think that the biker gimmick kept him fresh during the Attitude Era, and one of the things that kept The Undertaker's longevity going was the fact that he evolved his character and changed it up. I enjoyed the biker gimmick. I think it was good for the time period in the Attitude Era. It gave his character a new edge and gave him something new and made him relevant. It kept him relevant. I think the Ministry of Darkness was good for what it was while it lasted, but when he came back, I think it was a nice change of pace for him. And then, of course, when the time was right, he went back to doing the Dead Man gimmick, and it really worked out for him. I think the timing worked well for changing his character when he did. This one comes from B. Hill. Does Adam Cole have the potential to be the new Chris Jericho in WWE? I find their size and charisma very similar. If Adam Cole can even have half of the success that Chris Jericho has had in WWE, I think he'll have a great run. Time will tell, you know. It's really hard to say right now. He's done very well for himself on the indies, but WWE is a different beast, and we'll see if he can succeed on the big stage. I think he has a very good chance of doing well in WWE. Will he go to NXT, or will he end up on the main roster? That remains to be seen. I think that if he does well in NXT, I mean, he'll almost certainly do well on the main roster, and I think there's a good chance he'll be a big star in WWE. How big? There's really no way to know at this point. So will he be the next Chris Jericho? I don't know, but I think it's best for him if he becomes the first Adam Cole in WWE, or whatever name they give him. This one comes from I was almost going to say Adam. Wow. Almost botched my own name there. Aaron Rift Rules. Does Big Cass have what it takes to make it on his own, or will WWE keep him with Enzo for as long as possible? My feeling is that the people in charge in WWE and the creative team feel that Enzo might be holding Big Cass back, and the way Enzo has been portrayed as this goofball and like a fly, you know, you just want to swat the fly. It's really annoying. I find it annoying when Enzo's really getting over with his mic skills and the company's just trying to portray him as this goof and trying to make the audience realize that Big Cass is the guy they should be cheering for. I'm not really a big fan of how Enzo's been booked. But yeah, Big Cass, he has a lot of potential, and it's because of the size and the look that he has. Will he be able to succeed without Enzo? I mean, that really remains to be seen. I think, again, each guy has what the other guy is missing. If Big Cass had Enzo's mic skills and charisma, we might have our next Stone Cold Steve Austin or Rock. But unfortunately, he doesn't have it. Now, maybe once he's on his own, he'll really start to shine. He'll really start to get into a groove. It's hard to say right now. But, you know, I think Cass has a lot of potential, at least based off of his size. And I think because of his size and his look, he will be given every opportunity to succeed as a main event star. This one comes from Corey. What do you think of WWE trying an Emelina 2.0 kind of thing with Lana? These types of vignettes are getting old. I agree with you, and it's starting to become a joke. If I was WWE, I would get Lana on TV soon. I think they've been doing this long enough. They've done it for about, what has it been, a month and a half now? I think it's time to put her on television. Otherwise, fans are going to start to look at this as just the second coming of Emelina, and not in a good way. They're just going to laugh at it and not take it seriously. People do like Lana. They like her a lot. She's got personality, and I think that you just need to go with it. Either it sinks or it swims. I think you know, you need to strike the iron when it's hot and not keep this thing going and stalling for too long. You know, as the saying goes, either poop or get off the can. And I think it's time for WWE to put her out there and see if this will work or not. This one comes from Jason. Do you think Rey Mysterio will wrestle again in WWE? I think that there's a decent chance we will see Rey Mysterio in WWE again. I'm sure he'll be in the Hall of Fame, of course, but will he wrestle again? I could see him coming back for another match or two. But again, it depends on the circumstances and if there's a good spot for him, if there's a good opportunity for him to come back. Who would he face if he returned? Would he go into the Cruiserweight division? To me, Rey Mysterio was a really big star, and if I was going to bring him back, I would not put him in the Cruiserweight division. I would put him in there with a top-level superstar, maybe a Seth Rollins, you know. Is there that dream match for Rey Mysterio? Is there a good reason to bring him back? You know, the thing about Mysterio is he's had a lot of injuries, and I'm not sure if he's going to come back and do a full-time gig in WWE. I could see him coming back and being a part-timer. So it just depends on what you have for the guy. Not really sure if he'll be back. Maybe he'll come back for one dream match, but again, it's going to depend on the situation and if there's a good match for him. So we'll see. Hard to say right now. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ Video. Leave a comment at the bottom of this page, the discuss comments section. You can leave a comment, a question, general feedback. I'll try to respond to as many of you as possible. And again, please keep spreading the word about NoDQ Video. Tell a friend. Word of mouth can really go a long way. And on that note, I will see you guys next time.